Lieutenant Flight, April 16th, 2016. So we've gotten a little bit of news about the upcoming joint venture between Sony Pictures and Marvel Studios. That is the Spider-Man reboot that's coming out in 2017. And I wanted to take the opportunity to talk a little bit about that news, as well as sort of do a catch-all video about some of the rumors and official news we've gotten so far about the movie, just because I got some requests from people saying, Dan, you're the biggest Spider-Man fan on the channel, and you haven't really talked about this stuff on a video. We'd love to hear your thoughts about it, and I'm flattered that you guys care so much about my opinion, and I figured I'd indulge you a little bit, and of course hear from you guys. I kind of want to hear what you guys think, and kind of gauge the community's opinion, and see whether or not they're excited about this movie. I don't know about you guys, but I'll give a little bit of a preview of my thoughts. I'm really excited about some of the stuff we're hearing. So let's begin with the most recent announcement that the movie's going to be called Spider-Man Homecoming, and we got a logo for that as well at the kind of Sony event that this was revealed at. It's interesting, the title. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I saw some people that thought it was really cool. Some people seem to be down on it too. I'm not gonna boycott the movie or anything because it's called Spider-Man Homecoming. A lot of people have mentioned that it's the title of the story of the first issue of Amazing Spider-Man, where we see Spider-Man returning from Secret Wars, Battle World, with the black costume. I highly doubt the movie's going to be based on that story, just because we introduced a new Spider-Man costume in the Civil War trailer and movie. When that comes out, that'll be the introduction to the character, and it looks so cool. I highly doubt that Marvel's going to abandon that costume after a brief appearance in one movie. A lot of people have also mentioned that it is similar in title to J. Michael Straczynski's first arc on Amazing Spider-Man, which is Coming Home. And the villain of that piece is Morlun, who's an interesting villain. I wouldn't be opposed to seeing Morlun on screen. That story, for those who don't know, is all about the mystical aspect of Spider-Man. JMS tried to make Spider-Man sort of intimately connected with this totem of animals thing, and tried to make the spider that bit Peter his destiny and all those sorts of things. It's a controversial take on the character. I think it's interesting. It's not my favorite take, but it's interesting. That story is also sort of about Peter Parker as an older character and exploring his marriage with Mary Jane. That was some of my favorite stuff from JMS's run. It'd be interesting to have that character and that story sort of translated to Spider-Man in his earlier days, because these movies are going to be about high school Spider-Man. That would be interesting. That's not where I would start if I was doing Spider-Man movies, but we'll see. And it would be interesting at the very least, I think. As far as the logo goes, I'm a big fan of the way the logo looks. It's very reverential to the first original Amazing Spider-Man logo. I'm sure everyone's familiar with it, the curved Spider-Man title. It's the one that's been used, other than the one that was also used for the animated series with the jagged letters from the 90s. So that's really cool. I really like that they're being reverential to the early days of Spider-Man, because that's primarily what it looks like they're going to be adapting, and I'm all for that kind of retro throwbacky stuff. So that's really cool. And I doubt they pass up the opportunity, since the movie's called Homecoming, now that I think about it, to have Peter's homecoming dance in high school in the movie. That just seems like such an obvious thing to do. We'll see. Obviously the title isn't going to ruin the movie. I just hope it's good, if anything else. As far as the creative people that are involved in the movie, we have John Watts. He's going to be directing the movie. He's a guy that seems to have been plucked from the indie scene, similar to how Mark Webb was when he was recruited to do the Amazing series of films. As far as I was able to tell, he's worked on directing comedy videos for The Onion. He did a movie called Clown in 2014, which was a horror movie, which still hasn't been released in the United States. It was released in Italy and some other countries that year and last year, and it's getting a release date this year. So if you're curious about his work, I think I don't know how wide the release is, but it's coming out in the United States this year in any case. And Cop Car was the film he did last year. That was an action thriller kind of movie starring Kevin Bacon that got a lot of positive buzz at the film festival scene. So, yeah, he seems to be a competent director. Clown and Cop Car got generally positive reviews. So, yeah, I'm just interested to see a guy with such a broad range of talent. I mean, he directed two very different types of movies in the two that were on his repertoire. So, I'm just going to be interested to see what his visual take on Spider-Man is. I would imagine that Marvel wouldn't hire someone that isn't competent. If anything, their movies look really good. They haven't hired anyone where I think that that isn't a skilled storyteller. I think some of the movies leave a little bit to be desired script-wise, like Thor: The Dark World and things like that. But in any case, I think he'll do a good job. I'm pretty confident that it'd be interesting to see what his take on the character is. As far as the writers go, we have John Francis Daly and Jonathan M. Goldstein, a writing team primarily known for comedy films. They've done stuff like Horrible Bosses, The Incredible Burt Wonderstone, and the Vacation reboot from last year. The only movie that I've seen that they've done is Horrible Bosses, which was a movie I saw in the theaters with my friends just because we didn't have anything to do that day and we wanted to see a movie. I liked the movie. I enjoyed it. Kevin Spacey was pretty funny in it. I just love Kevin Spacey in any role that he's in, really. Not a movie that I would go back and watch again anytime soon. Just unless it was on TV and I had nothing else to do, really. I wouldn't, seek it out and buy it on Blu-ray or anything like that. But I had a good time. It wasn't a bad movie. It was pretty funny. And then The Incredible Burt Wonderstone, I haven't seen. The Vacation reboot I also haven't seen, but I heard that movie was really bad, so they kind of have a mixed record as far as where I'm standing. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on these movies, if you've seen them. But, yeah, I mean, maybe the script could go through some rewrites if it's not up to snuff, but, I've seen writers that have, bad movies on their record in the past do great things in the future. Like James Gunn wouldn't have been a guy I would have felt all that confident about based on his past films directing Guardians, and that movie turned out really well. So we'll see. I'm reserving judgment until I see some trailers for the movie, I guess. As far as the official cast goes, we have 3 actors cast in the starring roles of the movie. Tom Holland, of course, has been cast as Peter Parker and Spider-Man. He's in his late teens, and they're going to be, focusing on the early high school years, which I think is a very smart idea. He certainly looks the part, and in the Civil War trailer, all we get from him is him being in the suit and saying, "Hey guys." A lot of people weren't a fan of him speaking in that, either saying that his voice was off or the line seemed out of context or whatever. I don't know what people expected a 15-year-old to sound like, because that's the age that Peter Parker is supposed to be in the movies, according to Kevin Feige. So, I mean, he just sounds like a regular 15-year-old to me. I don't see what the problem is. As far as that goes, I think Tom Holland will be cool. He has some big shoes to fill, at least in my opinion. I was a big fan of the Andrew Garfield portrayal of the character in the past 2 movies. I thought he was a big step up from Maguire. Not that I don't like the Raimi movies. I actually really like them. 1 and 2 are some of my favorite movies. But I always thought that of the casting of that Raimi trilogy, Maguire and Dunst were the 2 weakest casting choices. Or at least the casting choices that were least like their comic book counterparts. Like, I thought Alfred Molina was great, wonderful as Dr. Octopus, and same thing with Dafoe as Green Goblin. So we'll see if he surpasses Andrew Garfield for me, but I have a feeling that he's going to do a wonderful job. I really hope he does. Marissa Tomei has been cast as Aunt May, and she's 51 years old and looks really good for her age. She's a beautiful woman, and she reminds me sort of the ultimate look of Aunt May, in that she's a little bit younger. She looks like maybe she'll be a little bit more hip and with it than the ancient Aunt May of the comic books, which is interesting. I kind of got the feeling that this would be a more ultimate take. Most of the adaptations of the character that Marvel Studios has been pushing lately have been more Ultimate inspired, like the Ultimate Spider-Man TV show and things like that. So I'm fine with that. I like Ultimate Spider-Man a lot. I do prefer the 616 take, but Ultimate is also really good. So That's completely fine with me. And then an actress named Zendaya. Apparently, she doesn't have a last name. I would assume that's her stage name, the name that she goes by professionally. I'm not really sure. She's a young actress that has been in Disney Channel productions, TV shows, and stuff like that. Um, I'm not familiar with her at all. I don't know if she's a good actress or not. I would assume that if she's getting propelled to stardom this quickly, that somebody at Disney sees something in her. So that's pretty cool. She's been cast as a character named Michelle. That's all we know about her character. A lot of people online I've seen speculate that maybe she's Michelle Gonzalez, which is a love interest that was briefly in Amazing Spider-Man during the Brand New Day era. She was created by Mark Waid and Mike McKone during their time on the book. That character never really did anything for me. Her brother was the principal, competition for Peter in romancing Mary Jane after their marriage broke up, and Michelle was kind of this tough girl kind of thing. The character keeps a shotgun under her bed and stuff. I don't see them taking all that much inspiration from the comic book version if that's her. I was hoping that just based on the way she looked, that she would be the Spectacular Spider-Man version of Liz Allen, because she's Hispanic in that, and I thought she was great. So I'm not really sure what Zendaya's ethnicity is, but we'll see. Michelle Gonzalez obviously is a Hispanic character too, so we'll see. We'll see how that goes. I think it's interesting that we're not using Mary Jane or Gwen or really any of the major love interests from the comics. I would have loved to have seen Betty Brant be a principal love interest, or Liz Allen, but we'll have to see how they do it. It could be interesting. As far as the costume that we've seen so far for Spider-Man in the Civil War trailers, I think it looks absolutely fantastic. I didn't think I'd be happier than seeing the Amazing Spider-Man 2 Spider-Man costume, and Marvel surpassed my expectations. I didn't think they'd be able to come up with anything that I liked more than the Amazing Spider-Man 2 costume, but this thing looks like the coolest thing ever, to be honest. Of course, the thing that everyone's talking about is that the eyes finally move on a Spider-Man costume in live action like they do in the comics. He's able to express his emotions via the eyes squinting like he does in the comics, which is so cool. I'm so glad they figured out a way to do that. And I would assume, because the mask looks very technologically advanced in the way that the eyes move, that Tony Stark is the one that gives Peter Parker his costume. And that, I guess, will solve the problem that some people have mentioned about the previous movies, that, well, this is a costume made by, a high school kid in his attic or his bedroom or whatever. It looks like a movie production suit. Nobody's could realistically make that in their house. But if Tony Stark is recruiting Spider-Man in the movie, I think that's a pretty safe assumption at this point. Knowing that Tony Stark is the one that calls Spider-Man into the fray in the Civil War trailer, that solves that issue. So that's pretty cool. He also appears to have a belt with web fluid cartridges on it in the trailer, if you look closely, which is really cool. One of the missed opportunities I thought about the Amazing Spider-Man movies was that they didn't really have him ever run out of web fluid. His web shooters broke a few times, but he didn't really run out of web fluid. And the primary source of conflict in a lot of the Spider-Man stories when he's fighting or swinging or anything like that is the fact that he has a limited supply of this stuff. And introducing the web shooters, would have seemed like a good opportunity to play with that stuff, but they never did anything with it. So I'm glad that we're at least acknowledging that here, and I'm hoping that in the movie, his solo movie, that we get him doing those sorts of things. That'd be cool. The spider logo on the chest looks much smaller and looks a lot like the one from the comic books, the original Steve Ditko small spider logo. It's not as stylized as the Raimi and Amazing Spider-Man ones, so that's really cool too. A lot of people are saying that the spider on the back looks a lot like the Ditko costume too, and I didn't pause it to look at the back, but if that's the case, that's really cool too. The story of the movie, we have some quotes from Kevin Feige and others regarding what the story of the movie is going to be like, and there's some interesting things that are said, so I think those are worth talking about, at least a little bit. Feige said that the movie is going to primarily focus on Spider-Man in high school, and they'll be focusing on Spider-Man in high school throughout all of the movies they make, because in his opinion, the best Spider-Man stories that he loves are the ones where Spider-Man's in high school. And to that I say, Mr. Feige, you have very good taste. The best run on Spider-Man in general, in my opinion, is Stan Lee's run, the 100-issue run, right from Amazing Fantasy 15 and Amazing Number 1 all the way through. It's so good. And that's the days that Peter Parker's in high school and then goes to college towards at some point. So when Peter Parker's in school, I think those are the best stories that have been told with the character in general. So it's cool that they're focusing on that era in part of Peter's life. Feige said that the movie's going to feel like a John Hughes movie. John Hughes, for those who don't know, he's a teen comedy guy, and he's the guy that did The Breakfast Club. So that's an interesting choice. I hope it doesn't lean too far into the comedy thing. Like, Spider-Man's supposed to be funny, but I don't want it to just be a straight-up comedy thing. I mean, maybe that's what they're going for, because they hired comedy writers and everything like that. I'm just hoping that there's a good balance between comedy, really good interpersonal character drama, and action, because for me, the main crux of what makes Spider-Man an interesting character is the interpersonal drama between all the characters. It's kind of a soap opera, but it's done really well, so I hope they keep that aspect of the character intact and it's not too comedy focused, but we'll see. I'm still hoping. Feige has also said that the movie will feature Marvel Cinematic Universe characters. And Robert Downey Jr. has been sort of dodgy about being involved in the movie. He was on Kimmel recently when they dropped the Doctor Strange trailer. That was on Tuesday. And he was sort of coy about it. He was saying, perhaps I'm in it. We haven't negotiated any sort of contract yet. Iron Man has been rumored to be in the movie for a long time. And I suppose it would make sense given that Spider-Man is recruited by Tony Stark into the Civil War conflict. Personally, as a Spider-Man fan, I've always liked Spider-Man on his own and his solo stories. I think there's a reason why there's an issue of Amazing Spider-Man that Stan Lee wrote where Spider-Man doesn't fit in with the Avengers. He tries to join them, and they refuse him. He doesn't make it onto the team. Same thing with the Fantastic Four. I like Spider-Man as a solo character. I don't think he needs other characters on a team. I never thought the idea of Spider-Man being an Avenger was a cool idea. I suppose since he's so popular and he's being introduced in a movie with all the Avengers, that's an eventuality. But anyway, if that's the world we have to live in, I guess that's fine. If they're going to be basing this on Ultimate, I would like to see out of any of the MCU characters Nick Fury, because Nick Fury is intimately involved with the early days of Bendis' run on Ultimate Spider-Man. That's the character I'd choose, but if we gotta have Tony Stark, I guess, I don't know. That's the news about the movie that I'm most leery about, to be honest. I just like to have Spider-Man movies that are really good. That's all I want. I don't want MCU Spider-Man movies where there's MCU characters going in and out and being like, hey, we exist in the same universe, remember? I just want good Spider-Man movies. Feige also said that the movie's going to feature a brand new villain we've never seen on screen before. Brand new in the sense that we've never seen them on screen, not brand new in that they're invented for the movie. It's going to be, a character from the comics, obviously. There have been two principal rumors about villains for the movie. One of them was from a long time ago. This was when it was first announced that Marvel got the rights back. There was a rumor that Matthew McConaughey was approached to play Norman Osborn, and nothing's really come of those rumors so far. I think the idea of setting up Norman Osborn early is a very good idea. Amazing Spider-Man, obviously that series tried to do that in the same vein as Spectacular, even going as far to have Harry Osborn appear to be the first Green Goblin, which was a cool idea. That was one of my favorite ideas about the Spectacular Spider-Man, is that they sort of renewed the mystery as to who the Green Goblin is in a really clever way. I think setting up villains is always a good idea, so put Norman in the movie. I don't know if McConaughey's the guy I'd go with, but then again, I'm not the best fan caster, so these people know what they're doing more so than I do. If they think that Matthew McConaughey has something in him that they see that's Osborn-esque, that's cool. Norman Osborn is my favorite villain in all of comics, so obviously I'd love to see him. And the other rumor that came out the other day, right after we got the title announcement, was that Michael Keaton is in talks to play the Vulture. The fact that the Vulture is being considered to be a villain for the movie doesn't surprise me at all. Sony has this history of wanting to put Spider-Man villains in movies and their plans being ruined, and then they sort of retool them when those don't go right, and they use that villain anyway. Like the Lizard was a villain that they wanted to use in a movie for a long time, and that ended up being the villain of Amazing Spider-Man 1. The Vulture was supposed to be, or some form of the Vulture. There were rumors that John Malkovich was going to play the Vulture in Spider-Man 4, and then there were rumors that they were going to combine Black Cat and Vulture into one character and make her the Vulturess. That's who Felicia Hardy was going to be, supposedly, in Spider-Man 4 at one point. I don't know if any of those rumors were true, but I just wouldn't be surprised if Sony is sort of using whatever creative leverage they have in the situation to say, we've wanted to put the Vulture on screen for a while, and this might be a good opportunity, which I think is a cool idea, especially since Vulture is the second Spider-Man villain that shows up in the comics. The first one is the Chameleon, and then we get the Vulture after that. So that's kind of a cool idea to me. I like the Vulture. I know a lot of people think the Vulture's kind of a hokey idea and don't like him. I've read stories where the Vulture's really cool. Specifically, some of the stories written by Peter David during his run on Spectacular, or it was either Peter David or J.M. DeMatteis, one of those two. Someone working on Spectacular in the 80s and 90s did some cool stories with the Vulture that I really like. So I wouldn't be opposed to that. Michael Keaton playing him would be interesting. I think it would be interesting seeing him in a John Hughes style movie, because John Hughes, I think Michael Keaton was in one of John Hughes' movies, and that sort of helped start his career. So that would be kind of cool to see an older Michael Keaton return to that sort of vibe, and of course being the principal rival of Batman in Spider-Man at the other company. So that'd be sort of interesting. And I guess, Michael Keaton was just an Oscar award winner in a movie called Birdman, which is all about superheroes and washed out actors and things like that. So, not that Michael Keaton's a washed out actor, just the character he was playing in the movie was a washed out superhero actor. So that's kind of an interesting idea. I'd actually like to see that. That's, that'd be cool. The only other piece of news that came out of that Sony meeting that I thought was worth talking about, this will be the last piece of news, and I'll wrap it up. Amy Pascal, who's the head of Sony Pictures, did confirm that the Lord and Miller Spider-Man animated movie is still in production. That, of course, is the animated movie Sony announced they'd be doing with the Lord and Miller, the people that made the Lego movie, and they're also going to be making the standalone Han Solo Star Wars anthology movie. And she also said that the movie's going to break new ground for the superhero film genre. It's going to be a Spider-Man like the fans have never seen before, she said. That's kind of cool. I don't know whether or not to take stock in any of those things. I'm not an anti-Sony Pictures person like a lot of Spider-Man fans are. I think the only Spider-Man movie they've made that I didn't enjoy was 3. I like 1, 2, Amazing 1, and Amazing 2, so I'm not like anti-Sony Pictures or anything, but, we just don't know anything about the movie thus far, and studios, tend to be hyperbolic about their movies sometimes. I mean, they have a history of doing things like that, so I'm just excited to see that movie eventually, because more Spider-Man is a good idea to me. But anyway, I want to know what you guys think about all of this news. Tell me about what you think about any of the stuff I mentioned. And yeah, I think that's everything I had to say. All right, thanks for watching, guys. I will see you later. Bye.